along really well. Yeah.
I think
He's a musician and a singer. But
Nice.
that's pretty great. I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah,
Pleasure.
that's awesome.
it also touches on my feeling most mornings when I get up that I'm actually just a nutrient-rich soup of goo. I've had that a lot lately. Yeah.
So welcome, Benny. Want to make sure we acknowledge you. And we have just started going around and just, kind of checking in, no real guidelines, just, what's up for you right now.
Cool. Hi. Yeah, good to see everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am feeling a little bit airy today. Like I feel like my mind is up here today. And I always like to try and keep it down here in here, but it's I'm feeling a little bit it's not having a lot of ease rooting moment to moment, but that's okay. Every day is different, right? And it's sunny out, and I'm pouring. After this, I'm going to be pouring agar plates for my homemade mushroom laboratory. So it's a good day.
Wow.
Sounds great.
Very cool. All right, that's awesome. Okay, cool. So the question again is just what's on your heart and mind right now, and we'll keep going until we've all had a chance to finish sharing that. Benny, actually, I just would love to know your connection to. What's your connection in with this group?
Oh, well, I've met Michelle through a couple different climate crisis community discussions in person before the coronavirus made those not possible. And I've got involved. I've been meaning to be on Shinrin-yoku walks, but never made it until they had to be, tabled, so to speak. And but I'm excited to be involved in discussions around the crises that we face, how to collectively and personally move through them, and especially grounding in an earth-based and community cultivating spirituality. I think that's critical, and really I'm feeling drawn to be here for that reason in particular.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Sweet. It's really good to meet you, Benny.
Good to meet you too.
I'm so glad that you're here, and I get to meet you finally too. I've been on Shinrin-yoku's, and I've done a lot of organizing work with Michelle, and it's great to meet another fellow, just somebody else who's inspired by the same sorts of ideas and principles.
Likewise.
Also, I love your action camera work when you come on screen. It's like Orson Welles or Quentin Tarantino getting close to the environment they want to photograph. It's very exciting, very revivifying.
Good. Yeah, things can get stagnant when you're staring at a screen for too long. So if the screen's in dramatic motion, maybe it'll wake everybody up for a second.
Cinema verite thing.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. Okay. Francesca.
I've been a little bit adrift in the last few days. I've been missing you all, I think, and yet felt freed up. I could stay in my nightie a couple of days, and I just got up to turn down a pot of beans that I'm cooking. I'm using a Dutch oven that I invested in for the first time, and I pulled a few weeds yesterday, but oh hush, Simon. You can probably see his ears.
Oh, yeah, we can see the top of his head too.
He's mad at me because I popped him off my lap. Ancient cat. Yeah, just thoughtful. Rebecca Solnit's book just arrived yesterday. Let's see, what is it called? Hope in the Dark. And I'm really looking forward to reading that. Yeah, I'm good. I'm just a little bit scattered.
I know how that feels.
Yep.
I think the scattered condition is going around. I've certainly had my share of it, although for me it seems to be mixed in with something delightful, which is that I'm finding it easier to sort of think outside the sort of dismal, claustrophobic little boxes that most of what passes for thinking about politics, occurs within these boxes that were never very good, but now are just kind of silly. So I've been having really good talks with Bob, and talks about the most pressing, disturbing things we face, in which I find myself laughing. So I think that's got to be good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, wow. Those conversations also, they are such a big part of what get our minds churning and our creativity going. I guess that's why we do what we do in some of these conversations too, is because we want to tap into things that we wouldn't have otherwise be connecting to. And I'm just thinking, Paul, of your shares about in conversations we've had about the way that this crisis faces people living in Africa feels so different, and without a healthcare system and proper housing and sanitation oftentimes, and like that's just, it's changed my sort of like attitudinal awareness about this. And I don't think I would have had that without our conversation. And it struck me how it has been so present for me since our conversation. That's the kind of thing that sometimes is happening right now. Leoma, welcome.
Welcome. The update on my sister is good. She expects to be coming home in a couple of days. Well, she'll go to skilled nursing for hopefully just a few days to get her, make sure she can make the transition. But anyway, I was on the doctor for the daily update, and sounds good. So here I am, and very happy to be here.
Good. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, welcome. Bob, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I've been realizing increasingly it's kind of like making myself evident to myself quite a bit about my tendency to go through the thorniest, darkest part of whatever any situation is. That's why I always usually know what's going on politically, because it's a very dark, terrifying place to be. And it underlies a lot of people's feeling about being scattered, or obviously hopeless. I know Nancy talks about all of this too, but it's set up to create self-defeating mechanisms. Even if it's not conscious, it's just part of the construct. This complete madness about some states are going to open up so they can start the economy again. And it really, that joke about your money or your life, it's amazing that our country's turned into a bad old vaudeville routine. It's just amazing. It's just, I mean, I'm sure Will Rogers would look me right in the eye and go, no, there's no news about that. But I'm a little alarmed. I mean, I'm still hopeful. I think the only way is to do something constructive and good out of this. The only way to do that is to have people wake up increasingly and realize that this is the kind of government that doesn't work because it's not working. It refuses to. That's its point. That's why he's picked the worst people in the world to run all the departments, the people who hate those departments. Reagan did this too. But so as I say, going through the depressing, thick complicated part, not that that makes me smart about being complicated. It just means for some reason I'm drawn to that a lot. And I think in the old days, I used to say, I'll do the hard one first, and then the other ones will be, you know, kind of fun. But reality is a little different. So, but we did have a nice talk, Paul and I, about our thinking about the group and goals in general, and things political that matter, that justify the existence of having any view about us deciding together how we're going to live, which is simply what politics really is. When you get out, you get the money out of it, which is the real problem still. Everywhere I look, real estate and dollars, and I'm not controlling them. So it always makes me a little disheartened when I hear grand plans, but we need to face the music and dance about this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Bob. Michelle, you and me, we got to check in too.
All right. Well, I'll go. I've been wrangling technological kerfuffles all morning, so a little bit extra because of that. Had a really great talk with Lionel this morning. Thank you so much for that. And I'm trying to regain my focus here a little bit, and for me, close up is really hard to focus on, so I like to look at the big stuff way out there as much as I can, and that this is, now for the last several years, literally true for me, in addition to sort of metaphorically and by temperament. I tend to stay so focused on what's big and way out there that the closer in, the near distance is much harder for me to keep my focus there for very long, and that's a learning process. So
yeah, felt and heard. Glad you're hearing part of this, Michelle. And holding so much of it. How am I? Honestly, I'm excited about this conversation today. Yeah, I think I did a significant part of envisioning it, and I co-created it with Michelle. To be clear, I'm still checking in right now, but just my check-in is about this. And I got to spend some time outside just before this, and just be outside with my partner, hanging out by the trees in the forest, in the backyard here in Vermont, where I'm living right now. And that was really nice. I'm really grateful that I get to be closer to nature right now where I'm living. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over first to Michelle to do just like the kind of the standard Novasutras introduction for our session, and then I'll introduce the topic a little bit more in depth after that. And we do have an outline for the event today, and I'll get into it and share with you what we've got in mind after this. So over to you, Michelle.
okay, so I'm gonna take us into the slides, and I realize that this is somewhere between what we're now talking about as different kinds of events, discussions, and teachings. So a little bit leaning toward the teaching, just because there will be a lot of presentation part, but then this is an extra long session so that there's plenty of room for discussion about where we are. because what we plan to talk about today specifically is really looking at the future of Novasutras discussions, and honestly, as it emerged, really all online events, and how we can make these much more community-based. Both for today and for our general perspective on what is a Novasutras event. We want to make sure that we're always bringing in these basic Novasutras principles. I think everyone on the call is familiar now with the terms Agaya and Ubuntu. And part of that is setting a container that reminds us that we're in this kind of a space. Part of it is knowing that the people we bring in, even if they don't necessarily articulate it the same way, have this in their hearts and minds. And partly it's always helpful to be reminded of that wider view, that larger context, and the way that everything we do depends on that, and everything we do matters to that. And so our conversation today we have to treat it not overly seriously, but we have to hold it in a space where we recognize that it does really matter. And that's why for our discussions, we need to also remind ourselves that the kind of discussion, the quality of discussion that we want to have is everybody's responsibility. And so we all need to work on making sure that we're doing our best as listeners, paying full attention, honoring differences, and assuming best intentions from people. That when we speak from a place of deep honesty and authenticity. And that we're going to be very respectful that other people are speaking from potentially very deep places, and we may need to hold some things in confidence. And once again, we are recording. So if you feel we're heading to a place where you're going to want to open up and not have something recorded later, it can be very helpful if you let us know, and then we can just pause the recording. And if you realize after the fact, then let us know, and we'll figure out how to deal with it from there. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the prime catalyst for Novasutras overall, and our main facilitator for today, who is Lionel. So.
Well, yeah, thanks, Michelle. I mean, well, Michelle, absolutely. This is a prime catalyst for Novasutras is you, Michelle. I'm not sure what you mean when you say that.
I just laid the egg. I don't know.
No, you have scheduled all of these events, put all of them together recently, and have held octal meditations for some 2 years now. And what I see in this work is, I think, something that's profoundly needed and valuable, which is community and spirituality that's based on deep honoring of the earth and unity within and between humanity. And really, it's about like the marriage of humanity and the earth. And that's where I want to hang out. And you all are the people I want to be hanging out with, because those values and those principles and the ideas that grow out of them are they're good. I think they're really good, and I think it matters a lot. And the last thing I'll say about that before I actually get into introducing the topic is one of the projects that's been happening and I've heard acknowledged a couple of times within this greater community, is creating a language to talk about principles that's based on the earth, metaphors related to the earth, rather than metaphors related to war. And just by having conversations together, we're developing terminology and awareness and a way of speaking with each other and a way of talking about what's happening and where we're going and what we're doing that is rooted in life-affirming, earth-based principles and ideology. And that is so cool. And that's something that we are doing here together, all of us, every time we have conversations around these principles and within the context of Novasutras. So that's the deepest reason why I'm here, one of them. Okay, so I'm gonna shift my screen to the side so that I can both see notes and see our video chat at the same time. And the topic today is not really a topic. It's the conversation that I want to well, actually, the way that we frame this is that we want to show the Novasutras community what it takes to put on a Novasutras event, and we want to unlock it so that the Novasutras community can put on Novasutras events. And we don't want to have, in organizational terms, I think I build organizations for a living. That's the work that I do professionally. And initially I got into conversation with Michelle about doing it with Novasutras professionally, but what it's evolved into is a lot more than that. And we've just been working together a lot for many months, for actually the better part of a year now, to build Novasutras. And I think what keeps on motivating me to come back to it with this fledgling organization and this little idea is that I care about it and I think it's meaningful. And we're doing something we're creating a community that I actually want to hang out with. And this is a teaching oriented conversation. And so I'm going to share information and then we'll discuss the information. And this is a discussion about how we put on these events. And in doing so, in organizational terms, I would say Michelle has been a bottleneck, right? We've had a thing where we're starting to do a bunch. So actually this is an amazing thing, but in the last 3 weeks, Novasutras has hosted 17 events.
No, just
actually,
17 discussions, more events than that, because there have been a couple of meditations and then the Earth Week event. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, 20 events in the last 3 weeks.
There you go. 20 events, 3 weeks. Okay. So that's crazy. A little bit crazy. I feel like I can say that from an organizational standpoint, you have an organization with one person that's dedicated to it and it's put on 20 events in 3 weeks. That is nuts. But what we're doing is really cool. And so what this is about and what I'm hoping to bring to this is just I want to show you all a brief synopsis of what it is what the steps are to put together a Novasutras event, and then we as a community can put them on, and we won't have to, and Michelle won't have to put it won't be a bottleneck in all Michelle. Meaning that there are topics that we want to do conversations around or things that we want to teach or rituals that we want to do with each other, we're going to be able to organize those as a community. And we won't have to say, oh, hey, Michelle, can you do this? We'll be able to say, oh, I think this needs to happen. This is going to be a really valuable thing. Let's do more of this. And I know how to organize it because here it is. I can just like look at the steps in the process, and there are people who know how to do all the steps in the process. So cool. And then each of us has like the power and the opportunity to organize and help make things happen. So that's the vision and the orientation of this. So what I'm going to do now is I want to share some things that we've heard about the discussions that have happened so far. Oh, hi there, Francesca. I'm going to, here, hold on a moment. I'm going to take a look at my notes and make sure I got it in the right place. And then
yeah, that's kind of not where we're at yet.
Yeah. Let me take a moment.
That's all right.
Oh yeah, I already shared everything I meant to share here. Cool. Okay. So Michelle I'm actually going to turn it over to Michelle now, who will help us take a look at.
Forgot to prep.
At what? Oh, I apologize.
No. This is me. Yeah, never mind.
All good.
It's gonna be fine. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So, what I want to drop into this space, and I'm saying that because what I'd like us to do is we'll take a couple of minutes to do some centering and think about this before we sort of move into more information, more content from Lionel. But I'm inviting us to reflect about how much good has come out of the discussions in particular, and that the places we've gone, the ideas that we've created together, the things that we've talked about, and the quality of those discussions, the depth of the interpersonal connections, the real community that it feels like we're building together. To me, in some ways, it's like, wow, I've never had the chance to be in something this deep that was always working so well. So I'm just filled with gratitude for that. It's just been an amazing ride. That everyone who shows up with their whole heart and a big, alert, creative brain all at the same time. It's amazing. It's just amazing to just every once in a while, I'll just sort of like pause and watch a conversation unfold, and I'm just, it's just, yeah, it's so wonderful to see what we can do when we get together. So I want to really drop into appreciation for all of that, for all of the things that have emerged from people coming together on discussions like this. And just let us take some time to really let that sink in, and then let ourselves feel into where we can go from here. So I'm going to give us 2 minutes with some bells to center us.
Thanks for that, Michelle.
Back to you.
Wonderful. Okay. So we've listened to feedback from these discussions, and these are some things that we've learned that we need to work on. The discussions, they shouldn't have the facilitator taking too much time presenting when they are in fact a discussion. But we also have a desire sometimes for teaching topics. Lots of us want to share certain topics. We would like discussions to be announced and known what their topic is ahead of time, so we know what to expect, and we can invite other people. And we'd like to have consistency and dependability around how events are hosted, so that we can bring new people into the conversation. And these conversations, they're valuable, and we want them to continue. We've also learned and experienced from organizing them a few things as well. So we've learned that there are a lot of different parts involved with organizing the events. And it requires scheduling and publicizing, which Michelle has done alone for all of the events. It takes hosting, which Derek has done a lot of. Thank you, Derek. Michelle has done a lot of as well. And facilitating, somebody facilitates the conversation and holds the space. Again, Derek, you have held a bunch of these spaces and also really catalyzed the discussions happening when they started. So my hat's very much off to you, except for I'm going to look for a new expression because this is a military symbol. And I don't know which one what to use. An earth, a tree. Oh, you're muted still, friend. Peace.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Peter's
Peter's, yeah.
Peace from the heart. Yeah.
Peace from the heart. Peace from the heart. And facilitation has also happened in the last 2.5 weeks by Michelle, Kendon, Paul, and myself. And there have been requests which we've been able to accommodate to record some of the takeaways from conversations as well and send them out after the conversation. And recording what has happened and getting it out has been done in the last couple of weeks by Derek again, and Michelle and Paul. So thank you all for playing that role too. That's a really cool one where I think we knew that the other things were things that needed to happen before we had any discussions, but recording what happened during them is something that emerged from the discussions in the community itself. And it turns out that it's a need and that it's helpful. And that's one of the things that we're able to do here is we're able to learn what would be helpful. And in this case, we were able to create a way to accommodate it. And what's cool about that is now, as we've thought about how do we put on Novasutras events, it lives there now. It's one of the things that we think of as how we put on a Novasutras event. I think it's really cool. So I'm taking a look here. So I'm trying to decide if this section that we have next still feels like the right thing to share next. Oh yeah, no, there is. There's something that's actually really important here. I'm going to speak from my perspective. I would like something that one of my hopes with this is that that no single person will be overburdened, and that Novasutras will put on events as a community that really serve the Novasutras community. And because we will have clarity about how to put on the events, and we'll be able to have small teams of us that host one particular event, we're going to have a lot of vibrancy and life and joy and energy around putting together that particular event around that topic. And the commitment will be small. It'll be really meaningful because we will help to organize and orchestrate and host a really valuable event that is for the Novasutras community, that's for those of us who care about these principles of connection between people and connection to the earth. But it won't require too much strain from any one person in order to do that. My hope is that it'll be really like fun to create something that's valuable in this community. And it'll also be really a relief that the commitment is actually small. It's just for one event. And my hope after this too is that we will have Michelle and Derek attend events simply as participants, and there will be kind of this rotation in our in the roles that we play as either an organizer of a part of an event or a participant in that event. And that's the thing that gives me joy to imagine and that I'm looking forward to. Okay. The vision for where we're going. So we want to, I think, clearly define roles and tasks that go into putting on each Novasutra's online event, so that we can have teams that do these together. And I think that this can actually improve the quality of the discussions themselves, because we're going to have shared responsibility. No individual will be overburdened. We'll do it together as a small team that's working on one particular event. And when we are helping to put together an event, we'll be fresh, because we won't have just led, 3 or 8 other events that week. We will be coming at it, and this event will be the one that we care about a lot. And this also makes it possible to have more events, and actually to have events in a sustainable way, because we will have as many events as there is energy to have events, and we won't have events where there is not energy to have them. And so there's like an equilibrium that will be formed in sharing this, which will be based on really organically what we have a deep desire to organize and to share with each other. And when we do decide to do something, we're going to be supported. You can have each and every one of you can have an idea for what we should do and can do as a community to support one another and what we want to invite others to, and have support in organizing that thing. Okay, And lastly, sharing in the co-creation of events that we think are valuable helps knit us together as a community. What we've thought through are 4 of the roles that are really necessary to hosting one of these events, one of the online events. And what I'm imagining is that if I wanted to organize an event with Novasutras, I would get together a group of people to do it with who I enjoy working with, I want to talk about this topic with anyways. And the act of organizing it and putting it together, and then inviting the respective people from our lives that we would like to bring into that conversation, it's going to be a good experience. It's something that I'm going to get to do with you. And whereas before we didn't have something we could necessarily do together, now like we can kind of, we get to plan our own party and then do something cool together. And it's all going to be clear to us what each of the roles are that we're going to take in order to make that go off easily, successfully. So I want to take us through the document in a moment. But first, this is not in the outline that we have, but I just talked for a long time. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to take a moment and just share anything that's come up for any of us around what I've shared so far. And I guess I want to let you know, in addition to that, that I have a special curiosity that's just come up about whether there are any other aspects of vision that you have or desires that you have for like what this might become. I open the floor.
Well, I'll jump in. I agree with everything. In terms of your final question there, Lionel, what kind of vision do you have? I had 3 goals when I got involved with this. One was to have a daily conversation which could act as a support group. And the second was to bring more people into Novasutras. And the third was to have so many people join the calls that we would start spinning off and they would have their own conversations. And so I wanted this to go viral, pardon the pun. And so I wanted to have everybody see the role model and then go off and do it on their own. And I was happy to mentor with the Zoom piece to help people do that so they feel comfortable with it. So yeah, it really aligns with what we're talking about here, because everybody has to know how to do all these things if they're going to go off and do it on their own. So happy to see this conversation.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing correctly what you're saying, because you emphasize quite a bit that any one of us who felt there was something that should be addressed, well, what we can do about that is we can host our own meeting. That to me almost sounds like if there's something you want to discuss, you're going to need to host a meeting. And it also kind of sounds like it raises a question about what is the essential distinction between a meeting I'm holding because I see needs and I want to meet them, and that's about me, just how I see things, and holding a Novasutras event. What is the essential difference? I think, because one of my questions from the beginning has been, for people who are not predisposed to a spiritual orientation, for people who don't have a good association with that, and for people whose complaints are not necessarily in their own mind spiritual in character, that actually describes a large number of people I would like to be talking with. What is it that I say to them to explain why they should be in a Novasutras meeting? And how do I convey that it is a Novasutras meeting and still honor sort of where they're coming from?
Yeah. I mean, so there's two main things that you just brought up there, and I'd love to take a to try to respond. So the first one is that distinction that you're asking, like the distinction. First you were asking about when you want to change something about how we do what we do. And you were saying, do we have to like host a discussion in order to change how we do what we do? And to that, I want to say, no, I don't. That's not like the thought and the intention here. So, but there are two things here. One, by actually writing down how we do what we do, we can change it. So part of the effort to document what we do, make it shareable, actually codifies it. And something that I've always loved in building organizations is that once you do that, you can change it and you can talk about what it is you're changing. It's no longer amorphous. It's no longer subjective. It's no longer just what happens that one time, but not that other time. If you have some sort of like agreement and parameters around what you're doing and how you're doing it, you can change it because you can discuss what it is and what it hasn't been and what you'd like it to be. And what we've created does not create a process for doing that, but it does create an initial base of potential agreements, which we can then go on to like discuss and change. And we don't have a process for doing that right now, but we're definitely doing it. And the conversations that you like, the conversation you and I had a huge influence on me. And I created this document initially and then co-created it with Michelle. And your feedback and your thoughts, they have put a big role in my thinking, and it's changed it. And there are things that are just that exist now in my mind about how we need to do what we need to do well that are really based on that. So that's the first thing. Yeah. Do you want to say something to that as well, Michelle?
I maybe let's focus on that first question. I heard what you were saying a little bit differently, I think, than Lionel did. And that very first thing of, well, if I have an idea of something I want to talk about more in terms of like a discussion topic, does that mean that I have to take over hosting? And specifically, and we'll get to this, no, you don't need to take over hosting. What it will be your job to do is assemble a team. And again, one of the things that Novasutras will be providing and that will make it a Novasutras event is that we'll have hopefully multiple people who know how to handle each of these roles and will make sure that that piece of making the event happen works properly. And so that'll make more sense as we get into it. But the short answer of, there's an issue that I really think ought to be a feature of a discussion. then you need to reach out to a few people who have already said that they know how to handle the roles to set up the event. So that we absolutely want to make that piece of it open to everyone. And we want to make all of these roles open to everyone who wants to learn them. And, you know, and again, then the part of the what makes it a Novasutras thing is that we're providing that container, that we have this this pool of people who know how to do the different aspects and can help out with constructing something.
Yeah.
Is there anyone, well, I guess, Lionel, was there more that you wanted to say about that first piece, or? Yeah. Okay.
No, not about the first piece. Thanks for making that distinction. I was thinking the same thing too. Yeah, talking about the topic versus like the process. Yeah. Is a big part, because what we laid out here is how we turn an idea into an event. And I think that you were both perhaps speaking, Paul, to that, and also like how do we change the process of what we do. There's another thing that you brought up too, Paul, which was about inviting people and the spirituality aspect. And, you know, yeah, this has been something that's like, you know, I've thought about and has come up for me too. And Michelle and I have had a bunch of conversations where we've gotten kind of into the nitty gritty of that whole distinction and like how to talk about this and what is it, and like, and how does that all fit together and make sense. It's a really interesting thing to discuss, actually. The role of spirituality and religion relative to activism and caring for, you know, the other people on the earth. One of the things that I think helps create that, like, there's like some boundaries in what we've set up here is that we are imagining there are different event types, and discussions, you know, are about discussion, and they're only as perhaps religiously oriented as the slides are, and as Novasutras kind of itself as an idea is. But then there are other events that are rituals, like meditation, and those are obviously and clearly, you know, based like for the purpose of connecting with a personal spirituality. And yeah, I think we can discuss what sort of like the line is there with that, and it's open. Yeah, it's open to discussion. And again, that I think relates back to what we do. It relates to, you know, like discussing the process itself and the goals of it, and what are we actually trying to go for. So I think it's a really good distinction, and it's everything you said is it's a welcome conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I just and I see that Leoma wants to speak to this as well, but just to provide a little bit of, you know, part of the intention with Novasutras was to be welcoming to people who are not sure that they, you know, possibly are very actively against what they see as religion, but to provide the kinds of support that spiritual and religious communities provide, even to people who don't necessarily have a good relationship with that, if there's something in them that resonates with a deeper earth connection. So part of the, you know, part of the challenge and something that should be a much longer conversation is, are there introductory steps? Are there ways to bring people in that won't push any of the wrong buttons, and yet will make them feel welcome enough that then if they get curious and realize, well, I need these other things to support, you know, my work as an activist, to support my dedication to Earth, that they know that they'll be in a space where it will be welcoming and it will resonate with where they already are. But that's a much expanded conversation and not what we're going to focus on for most of the rest of today. But I want to make sure that Leoma gets to say what she wanted to say there.
As you say, it's a much longer conversation, but I wanted to note that for me, Novasutras is not adequate for my spiritual needs on the other end of the spectrum, that I need more rather than less. But I see Novasutras as a meeting place, that part of what we would set up, as I say, it's a conversation for a different day, I think, but is a place where the dedication is to the earth and to working in community with people while respecting and valuing individual gifts, as contrast to individual gifts being an invitation to competition and commercial success.
Right.
That this is a place, a meeting place of different levels of spiritual needs and how to do that. And I think of the 12-step program, which became so something that can be replicated and has a basic pattern to it. So anyway, I just invite us to have a longer conversation around this, around how that whole aspect can be incorporated, invited and structured into what we do, so it's a safe meeting place between different parts of the spectrum. So
cool. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Leoma. Appreciate it. Okay. Let me know if there are anybody else that's thinking about aspects of Novasutras vision. And while you're thinking, I'm going to just acknowledge something very embarrassing, which is that I'm embarrassed to let you all see that I have something that resembles a soda can in my hand, because I grew up not drinking any soda at all and thinking it was a terrible thing. And I'm imagining that you all might judge me if you see that I have something resembling a soda in my hand. Just know, just seltzer has no sugar in it, and I'm drinking it. It's the only water I have nearby. So try not to judge me too harshly.
Well, it having no
Now
sugar
makes it
a purist act. So I can't see your concern. Yeah.
There. Thanks, Bob.
And surely you'll be recycling the cans. So.
It's just the aluminum that I'm upset about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I will recycle it, and point taken. I feel appropriately chastised. Thank you.
If seltzer water is your guilty pleasure, I think you're in good shape.
I would just like to add that this points to one of the things we're wanting to create in the space, is a place where the complexity of our interactions with the vision we're trying to take and our roads we're trying to take in the individual lives, that this place of non-judgment and faith that we're struggling our way through. I'm not saying it well, but it's also part of that longer conversation about how we create that safety where Lionel can hold up his soda can.
That sounds like living in the contradiction. You know, we're creating change even though we're part of systems that are destructive. Yeah. Francesca, I see you unmuted. Is there something you were interested in sharing? Oh, I'm not hearing you now, though. There. Okay.
All right.
Call me, ring me in. Oh, all right, Francesca. Derek is unmuting you.
Oh.
We hear you, Francesca.
Okay. I'm sitting here feeling, just reflecting on my relationship with groups. It's an uneasy one for me. I think I survived my childhood by being alone with my books or, you know, whatever. I would have a friend or two, but it wasn't, my family wasn't a group. And the extended family definitely wasn't a group. And, but then I've been in groups, you know, in training groups, for therapy, feminist groups. But I always struggle a little bit about my place in them. In grad school, I had an amazingly gifted but very difficult teacher. He was a psychiatrist in San Francisco who came to our school, and we would do group process. He would come in with his alarm clock, a literal tick-tock alarm clock, and he had very strict rules about everything. But he taught us about group development from, I don't even remember what it's called anymore, a systems perspective on how groups develop, the different roles people take. And it made sense within the context of my class. We became very bonded in some very dysfunctional ways as well as functional ways. We all resisted this guy because he had these strict rules. And then I ended up just loving him. He ended up dying of HIV/AIDS, and it was really sad. But I realized that he had a very particular reason for the way he kind of brought the group together. And part of it was resisting him in a funny kind of way. And so I may be just looking at all of this too intellectually, but I do struggle with the feeling like, oh, I'm going to be asked to do something here. Oh, am I going to have to be a facilitator? And I've been a facilitator of groups. For years, I was a facilitator of drop-in groups for battered women. And that was the closest I came to any kind of teaching role. But I think still my temptation is to sort of be by myself. And so then I got thinking, as you all are talking, gee, what is it that I have to bring to a group? And I was kind of wanting that, actually, I don't know if there's time today, but I was thinking each of us has a gift or a skill that we kind of identify with. And maybe it's not articulated in what we say, but we kind of carry this. And I was thinking, well, what is it that I have that I can bring to a group or bring to the world? And I realized that out of my being solitary so much in my life, that what I've developed into is somebody who accumulates knowledge and tries to share it where I can. And that comes from a very solitary kind of place. And then to be thrust into a group, okay, well, okay, now it's your turn to whatever. Then it starts to get uncomfortable, but just as I thought about it, I thought if I could validate my gift to myself, like it's okay, it's acceptable in a group or out of a group, that what I do is gather knowledge and try to share it where I can, that's enough. It's good enough.
You bet.
I'm just sitting here thinking, well, can I be comfortable in a group holding on to this image of myself as somebody who is much more comfortable alone than in a group, but very gratified to be in this group. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but there's all these things sort of circulating in my head. And so in a way I was wanting to hear if people had in a couple of words, what is it that you identify yourself with as the gift that you have to bring to a group or to the world? And if this isn't the time or place to do that, that's fine, but I'm sitting here recognizing mine and trying to allow it to be acceptable. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah.
It does completely. When you were saying it before you even just asked the question just now, I was thinking of mine. I mean, we all have many gifts, and there are many ways to express our gifts in different dimensions. But one of my gifts is that, you know what? Actually, I feel challenged to think about it more deeply than the first answer that came to me. I'm going to listen and come back.
And if this is too much of a digression, that's fine. We can come back to it sometime.
It really is not, actually. I feel like it really hits the pulse of what we should be talking about. I really welcome it.
All right.
Your question, as I heard it, was really what is our unique gift? Did I get that, Francesca?
What is our, say it again?
What is our unique gift? Unique.
Yeah.
Collectively
And specifically in terms of bringing to a group like this.
Peter,
Right.
go ahead.
Yeah.
What do we bring to
or
group?
in the world, but I'm just thinking, here I am in this group, and in a way I stand outside of it at the same time that I'm in it. It's just a funny thing.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so I'm finding myself, while I think that is incredibly important, I'm wondering if that's something we could all dare to take a moment and write up and send out to everybody, or however you want to collect it. And how do we have, 45 minutes left with this call. And of course, we knew it was going to require more calls. But what I'm wanting to grapple with as a group is, what is it that we're trying to do? What is it that Novasutra Core is daring to co-create? Is this a meeting place? Is this a spiritual place? Is this a whole bunch of things? Is this, what is it? What is it? Then we can tease that out, and the individual skills are always available to share.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I'm going to write down each of these questions. Francesca's question: what unique gifts do we contribute to groups and to the world? And Peter, your question, I'm gonna try it, and I might get it wrong, and then you can set me straight. Your question is,
don't make it hard on yourself. What are we doing?
what are we doing?
What are we doing? Is this and can we see the big picture of what we're doing and then narrow it down to what we can do now? Right? Is it that we do daily meditations and then there's the other meditations that happen? Is that what we can say we are now? And then allow that to blossom from there along the lines of the other things that will come up, and kind of make a longer plan for what we can do as we move in the future, and what we can do if we get manpower, and what we can do if we don't get manpower.
Okay, fair. Cool. Okay. Any other?
Well,
yeah.
I sort of, Francesca kind of broke the plane of the, I've asked you, we've talked about this a little bit with me before about being very unsure about when you were going through the thing about, and I understand you're saying there's a structure, will help you. And yet I still feel a little see about the whole thing. And the core notion of what it is we do, as Peter mentioned, is also another aspect of it. I'm not sure I have really a firm focus, and maybe that takes a type of particular emotional, spiritual attachment to this work that I'm just a little off from somehow. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel a little intimidated about what I was hearing, but that's old news for me anyway. But Would you say, what is your gift? I don't know. I've been asking everybody for years. It's a dumb answer, but anyway, that's a part of it. I could say a sense of humor. I have a basic seriousness about things political, which I think are the easiest expression I understand of dealing with, this is our situation now. This is what we're doing. What are we doing about that? And I don't think you're necessarily suggesting anything different. I just can't connect the dots somehow. That's my feeling. I'm afraid that, Christine, I think she got me to start thinking about myself as I really do react through emotions, which is kind of an unstable place to be. Well, it is, I think. I'm just being honest. I think it's a deep feeling is one thing, but emotions are they're like the choppy water on top of the sea. So I just don't know how suited I actually am for a great deal of what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm not sure I don't know what to offer structurally about any of this particularly.
Yeah, fair. I'm getting the sense that we do need to answer this question. It's just been said by Peter and by Bob. And I was going to take a stab at it. Again, the stupid language. Stab at it. Why would you want to take a stab at anything?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't think it's that. I really,
I have a list of stabbables I could share.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking this world is at war right now, and I hate that always is the first thing that pops up. I understand the terminology may be lousy, but it unfortunately defines a very reductive, sad part of the human experience, which seems to comprise the federal branch of the government, for instance, right now.
Well, if you all will at least laugh at the language with me and humor me in calling it out, I feel like that's the first step. We'll find out where it goes from there. But what are we doing? I've been thinking about that too, obviously. And, so I have conversations with Michelle. We've had them there was a while we were meeting every week. And in recent months, it was monthly. But then since the discussions got started, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many times we've met. And I'm thinking wow, what is this? What is happening? What is emerging? What's happening with these discussions? And Novasutras has hosted a bunch of events. Since I've known Michelle has been hosting events. And what's begun happening is we've begun organizing events as a community. And what happened really, I think per Derek's suggestion starting about 2.5 weeks ago, initially Derek's suggestion and then a lot of excitement and really the catalyst Michelle and I have been talking about ideas and possibilities for a year, but then Derek was let's do this thing. And we were all right, cool, let's do it. Whatever it is, we're going to do it. And yeah, Derek, I'm looking at you. And the discussions are cool to me from my perspective because they can go anywhere and because they're about creating connection, but also I have a lot of interest in discussions that are on a particular that have a particular topic, and I know who the team is that put it together or that is that's organized it. And so the ideas that we've now written down and we're about to share with you, you have space for that. They include that. But when I think of okay, what is Novasutras doing here? What are we doing in these conversations? What I see is being just a step away from what we're doing, and what I think is possible is we as a Novasutras community organize events, be they discussions or teaching or rituals like meditation. And we do them on themes and topics that we feel are valuable and important, and they meet the moment, and we want to invite other people to them because we care about them. And that's it. I mean, that we're having conversation. We're hosting things that we think are valuable and meaningful and important. And so what is Novasutras, like, what are we doing? Potentially, I feel like we're just one step away from being a community that cares as a community about these principles of a Gaia, connection with the earth, and Ubuntu, unity with humanity, and really the marriage between the two. And we're hosting, and like, we as a community know how to create events that take people deeper into those two concepts and the unity between them. Does that make sense? Does it answer the question? Is that a vision? Yeah. What do you think of that vision?
Yeah, I think that gives the framing to have the continued conversation of, do we have, are we able to do that now? And is that what everybody wants to do? Is there other things that we could put on the next rim of the orbit that people are thinking about?
Yeah, cool, totally.
Oh, go ahead, Benny.
Yeah, I want to jump in to try and add a little bit of synthesis and then respond to what Peter just offered, which is really valuable. And so what I heard from Lionel, and that came up naturally leading up to his most recent comment, is that Novasutras is a group of people mobilizing in expanding circles a spiritual grounding in the ecological, highly complex, highly self-organizing wonder of the biosphere and humanity as a participant in this earth. So Novasutra's, I guess, mission, if you want to put it that way, is to deepen our understanding of, our wonder at, and our engagement in the interconnections of Gaia and humanity. And to carry out that aim, we organize events and rituals. Does that, I want to pause and ask if anybody feels like there's something missing or a step taken too far in that attempt at a summary.
No, I think it's it.
I saw Leoma and Francesca.
I love the summary. I would add something, I don't have the wording for it, but add something that in this context, that part of the connection, deeper connection to the earth, is growing ways of connecting with each other that are more healthy and whole. That Ubuntu part of it is connected to the earth, but as I say, I definitely don't have the simple wording for it that's needed.
Yeah. Paul?
So, I would like to be, just me personally, I would like to be careful that we don't inadvertently build an identity for Novasutras that is based on distinctions that are invidious and destructive of human life. One such distinction in my mind is the separation of spirituality from politics. I don't think it is even possible to value interdependence and not be political. I think we're well past that. You know, my hero is Hannah Arendt. She was not a political person. She was like the opposite of a political person. She became the most important political thinker, maybe ever, certainly of the 20th century, because she saw, having survived Hitler's Germany, that the not being political thing was all over. That if humanity was going to continue being human, that we were going to have to, she called it, think what we are. Human beings must think what we are doing, but think it together, think through it together. My other thing is that I want to point out something, the way I see these discussions, because I'm sure I see them a little differently. For me, anytime you get a circle of people together, you come away smarter. It's like almost impossible, unless people are like willfully being stupid and preventing themselves from having any edifying effect. It's just the way it is. We're smarter together. We see things more fully, and you know, the circle is in the round. So for me, that is spiritual. It's just also political, and I'm quite comfortable personally. Like if I was going to host not me, us people, Sanders campaign people, I would start by saying how alike not me, us and Ubuntu are. But there, you know, spirituality would only come into it if somebody asked, I think, because I would just kind of assume that we could proceed without explicitly identifying something that is separate from the rest of life.
Yeah.
Do you want to respond to that, Lionel?
I was just going to fold it in, and actually I was just wanted to affirm what you said, Benny, because I feel like I actually heard it really clearly. But if you want to say something else, feel free to go for it right now.
Well, I just wanted to offer that what I heard from Paul is that we might want to, you know, take care in how we express the aim of Novasutras in order to make it difficult for people to interpret that this is only about spirituality and definitely not about being an activist, being engaged in the collective real world, so to speak, happenings of human society.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're saying
that's yeah. And what were you gonna bring in, Lionel?
No, I just think that the way you just summarized that is really good and really interesting. It's actually like, it takes us a step. Paul was saying an idea and you just proposed how we might do it, which is like actually describing Novasutras in such a way that it is hard to interpret what we're doing as being spirituality only. And it's very clear that it is action with spirituality. Or something. Yeah. So, I mean, I just like, I'm like, cool. We just did a cool little synthesis actually of a few different ideas. And yeah, I'm really digging that actually. I think I saw a nod from Michelle too during that. So I think that really hits a cool spot. Yeah. Yeah. Just speak.
And that what Paul was saying too, that we know that there's no way we're going to talk about the state of the world without politics and spirituality and all of it being part of it, right? That's not a separate category for which to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Totally.
having a little
Okay.
trouble hearing Paul. And so I'm appreciating because what I was wanting to say is, without our wanting to fight for this wonderful biosphere and the life on it, it's too sterile. I mean, any movement I'm part of, I want to be passionately trying to save what we're about. And I don't know if that's quite what you were saying, Paul, or not, but that's what I was wanting to say. You can't separate out. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that you guys are capturing really what my initial impetus was, which was I've looked at these various sort of spiritual offerings and they're not invested in doing the work. They're not, they're even very well-meaning, the focus tends to be just on internal work and not on how we connect with the rest of the world. And and again, I can take you on the whole anthropological walk of that's not how humans normally do it, and normally there is no distinction between the spiritual, the everyday, the political. That's all of a piece, and that's something that Novasutras is attempting to rebuild for the modern world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe we have enough of it knowing that we will need to come back and revisit this and how to do it.
I just wanted to mention, about all I have to contribute here, is that in talking about the distinction between spirituality, which is necessary for us to continue and carry on and communicate, and politics, the thing that always weighs down on me is the time, the literal time, the acceleration of how things are happening. So there's always some restlessness about how something's effective. And I appreciate that we're trying to be, I think, very careful and real about how people really communicate and how we really get through to people. But I also, at the same sense, have a real restlessness about the time factor, about what I see happening and how I see people responding. And I'm cautiously optimistic that out of this COVID-19 era, we're going to, we have an opportunity to do some things. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll second that we need to have an agreed upon time frame that we're playing with. And several other groups I've had to push this through because everybody has the opportunity to have a different time frame. And without clearly discussing what we think the time frame is, we're amorphous, or whatever the fancy word is.
Mm. So, friends, I'd like to show you what we came up with. So I'm going to show you just what it is to host a Novasutras, to organize not host, that's the wrong term. A host is actually a specific term in this whole thing. Michelle's been setting me straight. What it is to organize a Novasutras event, or create one. All right, and so what I'm going to do now is share my screen, and we're going to read it. And I could read it at Passover Seder, which I helped host with 30 people on Zoom a couple of weeks ago. Everybody read a section. I don't know if that would be mayhem right now to try to do that. I'm gonna share my screen and we'll see what seems to make sense and work here, okay? So hold on a moment. I'm going to go full screen here so that it's easy to see. More than that. Let me see. Okay. Yes, and now I'm going to share my screen. And can you see my screen now in this document? All right. Oh, no, also that now I can see some of your faces, but not all of them, okay? So if you want me to hear something that you're doing with a head nod, you're gonna have to do it verbally, unmuted, okay? Because I can't see all your faces.
I can see everybody, and I'll look for and unmute people as needed.
Okay, cool. Well, actually, I would be fine with people, for the most part, being unmuted during this too. Feel free to jump in and clarify. I do not want to be a talking head here for 5 minutes. This is like for you. This is for us. So like, let's make sure that we all understand it. And look at this. There's an awesome outline on the left-hand side here, which is something I always appreciate in documents. We did the proper kind of, like developing it in terms of the titles. So there is a structure that is very navigable in this document. So let me just hear from a person or two. Would anybody care to like read a section and like help actually like say what's here, or would you like to just hear from me and have me share what it like share the actual parts and explain them a little bit ad lib? Poll. What do you think?
You should go for it, I think.
Yeah, I see Peter nodding his head as well. All right. Bob was like, yeah, sure, that sounds fine. Cool. All right, I will do that. Okay, so Novasutra's online events, distinct from the ones that are hosted in person with Michelle. These are the roles. And uplifter is a term that Michelle came up with to describe community involvement with putting on whatever, with just doing the stuff that we do. Like when we're contributing to Novasutras, we are uplifters. Oh, there we go. Michelle is holding up this brochure of explanation of Novasutras, and it says uplifting each other. And I came up with this, doing the real work of bringing a Gaia and Ubuntu to the world. So this is how we go. This is an overview, this first section. I'm going to go through 2 sections here, an overview and how we organize events. The overview here, yeah, it's just generally how we, it's whatever. It's basically like 2 layers of information about how we do this. And let me tell you, I worked really hard to make this like the right size chunks too, to like, so that we can actually have a conversation about it and we're not bogged down in details. So fingers crossed, I did an okay job with that. But also we know
it's always my job to get people bogged down in details. So leave that to
me. Well, we balance each other out, Michelle. We do actually have lots of detailed information about what we're doing further on. But this is about high level to start with. So purpose. Novasutra's events, they allow us to consider the world's problems and think through how we can bring a Gaia and Ubuntu integrated practice. That is not, and we've said a lot more about it in this conversation. So actually I'm feeling like our held sense in this group right now is actually bigger than the words that are simply written there. What we do, we have different types of online events, discussions, teaching, and rituals. Discussions are events emphasizing community connection. They may begin with a topic or a question, and then they can go wherever the community takes the conversation. Teaching, it's an event that equips participants with certain knowledge or a new skill. And ritual, events that offer restorative practices such as meditation and calling the corners. How we do it. For every event that our community hosts, we form a small team of uplifters. We share the work of creating a welcoming, kind, and egalitarian event for everyone who participates. Putting on each Novasutras event requires our contribution as uplifters to complete 4 distinct sets of responsibilities. And we've thought through these and defined them as these 4 roles: scheduler, a host, facilitator, and a recorder. The scheduler coordinates the team and sends out information about the event. The host sets up the online space and guides participants through the opening and the closing of the event. The facilitator introduces the topic and helps participants engage with the topic. And of course, that will be different depending on whether it's a discussion, a teaching, or a ritual. The recorder takes notes during the event, summarizes it, and sends out information afterward. They may also record it if that event is going to have a recording. How we get out the word. Novasutras sends emails about upcoming events to newsletter subscribers. And additionally, as uplifters, we can invite our friends and our extended community to events on topics that they would appreciate. We add the event to the Novasutras website and to the calendar. And we promote to other platforms like Eventbrite or Facebook as we have the time, desire, and coordination to do so. Okay, so that's the overview. Now this is actually organizing an event. These are the steps of organizing an event. Any Novasutras member can organize a Novasutras event. The only requirement is that the theme aligns with the Novasutras principles of Gaia and Ubuntu. When you come up, and first, actually, it really is 1, assemble uplifters. When you come up with an event idea, your next step is to invite uplifters to help you create the event. The 4 roles you'll need covered for an online event are those ones from before: scheduler, host, facilitator, and reporter. And it is possible for one person to take on multiple roles, but it will be easiest for a person to really have a person per role. And creating a multi-person team also helps build shared support for the idea and distributes the work of holding the event. Schedule and publicize. So this is the next step, is to schedule and publicize. The person playing the scheduler role will lead the team in deciding upon the event details, including the date and time, the event title, and the description that will get publicized. The scheduler will use an online form to submit the information for publication to the Novasutras newsletter and add the event to the Novasutras calendar. Like if you've ever, we were thinking actually that to make this easy, we could set up a Google form. So like if you've ever submitted something on a Google form, it's like a really, really simple web page. And there's just fields where you can fill things in and you can click submit. And we're thinking we can use that where like we gather the information, the title, the time, blah, blah, blah. and then we submit it, and then Michelle can post it to the website, and or another person will, but like we'll be able to have all the information together in one place that way. Okay, next, preparing for the event. Once the event details are decided, the host schedules the Zoom room or another online venue. The host will prepare the slides, adding the title, the facilitator's name, and any appropriate event announcements or other changes to the basic slide deck. Then the scheduler will publicize the event anywhere else that they want to, as decided by the team. And then the facilitator for preparation will prepare the topic content, including any questions that they're going to ask when relevant, and whatever introduction they're going to give to the topic. And in preparation, the whole team can invite people from their community to the event who would appreciate it, value it, and really that's who you're having the event for too, is people like, you know, I'm gonna riff on this for a brief moment. We as the Novasutras community here, those who are like been participating so far, we have a lot of knowledge and care about a Gaia and Ubuntu, quite a bit. And I think part of what we have the opportunity to do with Novasutras is to organize events that we think are going to be useful in the world broadly at this time, and use Novasutras as a community that makes it much easier for us to host events about these Gaia and Ubuntu related topics. Okay. End parentheses. Okay, during the event itself, the host will launch the online event platform before the start of the event. Then the facilitator will greet participants as they arrive and invite the initial check-in of everyone. The host will open the event with slides, and then we'll introduce the facilitator. The facilitator will create the environment for the thing that's going to happen there and set expectations for it and kick off the event, whether it's a discussion and it's going to go where it's going to go, or they're teaching and they're going to teach the thing. And then the recorder takes notes on key insights and information, and then they share that with that they're going to be sharing with participants. And then after the event ends, the recorder will edit their notes into a summary and email it out to those who have participated. So that's those are the two sections that are really the overview that I wanted to share now. And everything else is work that's been done, and that's some that's still being developed as well, that are like, you know, details on how to do some of the nitty gritty of this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And look at my notes. And then I want to share what's, having just shared all of that, I want to share what's next, at least as an invitation around all of this, and then we can discuss. So we want to begin organizing new discussions after we've had a chance to get equipped with like how we do these roles, and we have some experience. And so we're going to we want to have to have trainings. We want to do a training for each of these 4 roles, and we want to show you how to, like, just what's involved, and give you access to the tools, and give you the keys to the kingdom, to play each of these roles. And so we're thinking, our intention is to host training starting in not this week, but the following week, I believe. Is that right, Michelle? Yeah, the following week. And we've got some that Michelle will share. And then we would like to begin organizing. Our invitation is to begin organizing events again, to start the week of starting again Tuesday, May 5th. Because that will be after we've had a chance to, like, show people in our existing Novasutras community how to do each of the 4 roles, and it's also after a major event that Michelle is host. Oh yeah, it's the next octal meditation.
Right.
It's happening that Monday on May 4th, and so that felt like the right time, given schedules and calendars, to begin after that. And so the question now is, what do you? Oh, Michelle, do you want to say something?
Just, I think it behooves us to do a little time check, because we're 5 minutes before the hour. Is everybody okay with staying on a little bit longer so we can talk through some of this, or should we do some closing first? Does anyone need to leave right at 4? So everybody's okay with hanging out if we need a little more time than that. Okay.
Cool.
Carry on.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, right on. Yeah, and I certainly, as this being an event that I'm helping to host, I have a lot of interest in making sure that we don't go over time by very much, because that's certainly not something that I like very much in my life, is when events go over time. I tend to be a person who has things scheduled in my calendar. Anyways, though, I have so much curiosity now. I want to know, what do you think of this generally? But then what I really want to know is, do you want to play? Do you want to play one of these roles? Are you interested in learning how to do this, and in being one of the people that helps organize Novasutras events? And if so, would you be willing to possibly, maybe, potentially consider coming to one or all of the trainings that we're going to do, depending on what role you're interested in playing? And I'd be really interested in hearing too, if any of those, which of any of those 4 roles is interesting to you, or feels like, yeah, that's the kind of role that I would be interested in playing in organizing these. Those are my questions. I open the floor. What do you think?
And I think also it's, so if there's something that you want some clarification on, if there's something else you need to know about what we're talking about with these 4 different roles, then that's fine too. And I'll put those little descriptions into the chat in just a moment here.
Would it be possible to get a
Yeah.
copy of your entire outline?
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to look at it right now, or do you want it right after this?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Francesca, we will. I just realized that is the most sensible thing in the world, and we'll send that out right after this this call. We'll email it out. Yeah.
So I have a question about the transition phase between today and May 5th. Can we have a couple of discussions and just open conversations?
There's
a
lot happening between today and May 5th.
I understand with the Earth Week and stuff.
That's already scheduled, yeah.
I understand, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think there are already 5 events between now and then, or something like that, that Novasutras is hosting. Anyways, though, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I just want to quickly chime in with Derek. I personally, after the 25th, would be happy to jump into a meeting if there are people who would like to do that between the 25th and May 5th.
Okay, yeah, cool.
I'm going to chime in, and I feel an agreement with that, and I'm happy to take up roles, any that are needed, and I'm happy to, be fully engaged in the trainings sessions for each, so I can contribute in whatever capacity arises as a need.
Oh, thanks, Benny. That's
wonderful,
great. Benny.
Yeah.
I'll have you know, Benny, that that those of us who grew up with computers in elementary school are going to be especially good at the scheduler role, I think. So just a tip.
All right.
There's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just to let you know, so the basic plan then, we have, Derek probably knows actually, Pachamama is doing events all day Wednesday. En-ROADS is doing several events, which is a climate simulator, is doing several events on Wednesday. And then there's the whole Climate Strike online group doing several events on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Novasutras is going to offer, I'll do a new moon meditation Thursday early evening. I'm going to do a 5:15 start on that one. So that you can then go out and look for the new crescent moon that should be visible right at sunset. And then Friday, Paul is going to lead. I'm really excited to see how this comes out. Reclaiming Hope, Earth Day Comes Back Home. So we've got that. Those are on the calendar for this coming week. Nothing on Monday and Tuesday, but I need a little downtime, and I need time to start prepping the 27th, 28th, and 29th, which is when we're going to offer these trainings. So that's part of what's going on for the schedule. And then on the 30th, there will be a first quarter moon meditation. And then on the 4th is the octal meditation for the cross quarter Beltane. So lots between now and the 5th that's already on the calendar. So we might be able to squeeze in another discussion or two, but that the thought was probably the best option is to give people a chance to get trained on the roles, and after those trainings then go ahead and start setting up those events, but that gives you time to do all of the tasks that are the prep up to the event, and get your questions answered and make it happen.
I want to maybe jump in and offer something, which is that, like, I think that the people who are interested in an event, a discussion, might be a discussion event between the 25th and the 5th. And maybe what that could look like is simply us getting together to really hone down what that discussion will be, and then making sure it happens as the organizing group. And that will satisfy our what we're feeling right now.
Kind of like to that, I would be way into a discussion that is really riffing off of Francesca's question, which is what unique contributions do you have for groups and the world? And that is just rich. That's a rich like that's such a yeah, rich question that could lead to so much. And it also could, I mean, it could create a lot of potential clarity within us about the kind of conversations that we want to have and that we think may be valuable to organize as well. So, I thought.
I wonder if that would be appropriate next Sunday on the 26th. So Earth Week stuff is done, and we have the trainings coming up 27, 8, and 9. If we have a discussion about what our self-perceived gifts are and focuses are, that might help us decide which trainings to go to.
Yeah, fair. So one thing I want to bring to this this kind of like thinking about when we'll have discussions is I want to do everything I can to give Michelle a hall pass. She doesn't have to go to any of the discussions that we necessarily put together here between now and then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because she's holding a lot of the infrastructural kind of like parts for all of like for everything to happen. She's working full time, or probably a lot more than full time, on Novasutras right now. And even just organizing this, like organizing all this information about how you do everything, we between the two of us, like definitely spent, like whatever, like we did it right, and part of the thing too, I'm just gonna like jump here for a moment. One of my unique gifts is I make it easier for organizations to do what they do. I make it easier for groups of people to do what they do. When people are doing a thing, I aim to make it like easier to do the thing. And more like, just like more distributed understanding about what's happening and how we're doing it and how we're going about it. And yeah, that's like, and like I'm willing to put a lot of energy into that for because that's the kind of thing, like for Novasutras, because that's what I care about doing in the world, and that's what I do. And yeah, so putting a bunch of time into helping get us organized, like that's my unique contribution. That's my joy. And I hope that in organizing events, also like it need not be so complicated or hard actually for us to organize events if we know how to do it. So that's what this is about, is distributing a knowledge and understanding of how to do it. Actually, we're in the middle of a conversation, but let us not forget, Michelle, for you to actually share the dates of the trainings that are scheduled so far. And I want to share too that like, it's not like we're gonna have one training and that's it, or like that things are not open after this. But right now, given Michelle's schedule and just like and other factors, we came up with, I encouraged her to come up with dates, firm dates that these will happen, so that we can at least have set expectations and have an understanding right now of like when we can learn each of these roles, and then we can have continue to have discussion about what that actually looks like. Okay, Michelle. You're still muted, Michelle.
There we go. So I've just shared the screen with the schedule of things that we know so far, just taking us through the end of April, which is the new moon meditation on Thursday, the 23rd. The Earth Day Comes Back Home, Reclaiming Hope talk on the 24th, and then our plans for these trainings to take on the different event roles. So the scheduler training, we're planning for Monday the 27th at 12:30. The host training, for Tuesday the 28th at 10, the facilitator training the 28th at 2, and then the recorder training on Wednesday the 29th at 2.
Which leads me to the just like interest in the question of roles. Anybody want to show up to any of these trainings? Anybody interested in helping host these events? And are there any roles that feel like the kind of role that you would want to play in organizing Novasutra events? Leoma, I'm gonna unmute you. I tried to unmute you, but I don't think you are unmuted yet.
Wait, come on.
There we go.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, is that 2 o'clock on Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leoma, you'd be good at that
in
one.
Attending everything just to find out about it. And I don't know, perhaps I might be able to do host and facilitator. Recorder and scheduler might take more technology than's under my belt at the moment. And I'll have to see about the other two, because I don't want to mess up a meeting with kindergarten level technology. Okay, where is the button that you push on?
Yeah. No, I think a facilitator actually, facilitator is, like you're holding the space for the thing, for the conversation itself. And yeah, but you're not setting up the technology for the facilitator role. So that's one that's actually really quite accessible, fairly irregardless of technology.
I feel quite intimidated by it, but I think that's rather irrelevant at the moment. I mean, because if we're going to not step up to something because we're intimidated by it, then we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I hear you.
Francesca? There we go.
I suspect that facilitator would be what I would aim for also, but I really do want to study your outline, Lionel, a little more before I decide.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Did you say route lines?
Your
outline?
Outline.
Outline. Oh, yeah. Outline. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds good, Francesca. Yeah. I mean, also part of what we're trying to do is have shared understanding as a community about what these roles are. And part of what's going to happen too is if we have other people who come in who want to facilitate, say, we're going to need to have just a body of knowledge. We're going to have some of us are going to have to know how to do that and how to show somebody who wants to now facilitate something the ropes. And that's part of this too, is we're trying to get the cat out of the box, where this is just a living, breathing community of people who are able to organize valuable events with that have a certain standard and a quality, and that center around a Gaia and Ubuntu. So it's more than just what we want to lead. It is also actually how we want to be as a community and how we want to have shared egalitarian access to playing these different roles within our community.
Just another piece of it, and I'm intending to actually publicize these trainings as widely as I would publicize anything else, simply because this is another service to people who are activists for this cause. Is how do you do this kind of stuff? How do you make an event happen when you want to make an event happen? So actually being able to provide that specifically, if you come to the training then you're on the list, and we might call on you. You know, you're going to be hearing from people who want to do events for Novasutras to fulfill whatever roles you're trained in. But also, these are great skills to have, especially during months of shelter in place. I mean, there are no more important skills right now for a lot of things. Okay, yes, there are lots more important skills in terms of providing food, providing healthcare, but this has suddenly become really important for keeping communities together. So, as I see it, if the underlying purpose of Novasutras is to serve the people who are doing the great work, then providing trainings in this stuff is serving people who are going to do the great work.
Now we're talking. There's a nice line to put into the brochure.
All right.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point too. I hadn't considered that at all, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. I guess I could actually use all of this somewhere else in my life too. Like it actually is pretty widely applicable. Huh? Yeah, yeah. No, these are the basics of organizing an event and like holding good space for it. So
yeah,
really interesting.
Given where technology is and what we're doing right now, yeah, these are the skills.
Yeah. Okay.
So Paul, you had
Paul and whoever else, think of what you want to say. Say it now, because we're close. We're at time, buddies, many buddies. Let's say what we have to say, and then we'll wrap up this conversation.
I'll be quick. I want to do all the trainings. Just looking at the roles, it seems like the trainings might be of different length, but
probably.
I also, even though we're running out of time, think it might be helpful if you could put it in a narrative. So you're one of us, and you're gonna do a meeting because there's something that you feel particularly should happen. Could you do just a little quick narrative of, so then
starting at what spot, Paul? Where does the narrative begin?
Well, see, one of the things I noticed about the roles is that there isn't a role for person who conceives a meeting for a particular purpose that should happen.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the scheduler role, being a little bit of a control freak, the first thing I thought of was, well, if I'm holding a meeting and I have a really extra special purpose, I don't want just anybody saying what it is. I want to have, so I just thought if you went like in a little quick narrative through it, it might be clearer for the organizationally challenged.
Can I try and do that, because it'll help me solidify. So, and that was somewhat deliberate, and Lionel and I talked about this for a bit, is that, anybody can have the idea, and that person will always be part of the team. And whoever has the idea, then, it's up to them to hold the vision. So that person may or may not be the scheduler, but they're going to work with the scheduler, and that's probably the first person that you want to find. So either you decide, I want to do this event and I'll be the scheduler, or I want to do this event and I need to go find a scheduler. And then the scheduler can help find the other people and coordinate to make sure that everybody is available at the same time as needed for the event itself. But it's also possible that the scheduler doesn't even have to attend the event. All of their work is beforehand. So that could be a person who just handles that stuff for you. The person who has the idea could be the facilitator, but if they don't want to be the facilitator, that's fine. You find somebody else and make sure that they know enough about where you want the idea to go, and then they can do the facilitation job. the scheduler and the original idea person, if they're two separate people, find a host who can set up the online platform, and find a recorder. And the recording role is actually one that varies a lot from these different things. You know, a teaching, almost always you're going to do a video recording of it because it's going to be like good, lots of information that you definitely want to capture. A discussion, it depends on what the discussion is, whether it makes sense to do a video recording or not. You know, the original intention was, well, we're not going to record these because these are just sort of personal chats. Well, they didn't end up being that. A lot of times they ended up going to really deep, interesting places, and we wanted that captured via video. And the flip side of that is there's some, like the rituals, like if I'm doing a new moon meditation, then I definitely want the video recording, but there's very little note taking. It's just to have the video recording to add to the, and this is, you know, part of what this is doing is it's adding content to what Novasutras has put out in the world in terms of content. You know, we have a YouTube channel, and so we're getting all of this stuff onto the YouTube channel and building up the content there. We have a website, and all of this will be linked on the website and eventually assembled into different pieces. When we have these summaries from these brilliant discussions, you know, one of the things that I have not been able to get back to is I have not done any reporting on the website of how great these discussions are. There's no bandwidth. I can't do it. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks, I will have enough of a pause that I can maybe do some of that. And hey, I also need to get a letter out before the newsletter out before the end of the month, this month. I don't know when I'm going to do that. I don't know what's going to be in it. You know, so there's like all of the other body of Novasutras and things that we do and things that we offer that this is a new contribution to. So that went off on a tangent, and I apologize, but did that give you a sense of kind of how that all works? And the intention here again is that it's not on any single individual's shoulder. Ideally, every single one of these is a team effort. It could just be a team of two. I would say that's a minimum. I don't, you know, I can do solo because I've been doing solo. And even that's going to get to a point where I can't do them solo anymore, I hope, because eventually we're going to have larger audiences and I can't manage hosting and facilitating at the same time. But, you know, you need at least two people, and you need somebody who knows each role and what they will need to do to fulfill those, so that responsibility is shared, so that you can check in with each other, and so that as a team, you know, Paul, just as you said, in a group, we're a lot smarter than we are when we're individuals. As a team, you're working the idea, you're developing it, you're coming up with what is really going to be of service here. You know, you're checking on each other to make sure, does this really fit as a Novasutras event? Is this really about a Gaia and Ubuntu? Lots of things are. Almost everything is, if you do it right. Yeah.
Francesca, you had a thought there.
I was just going to say that I don't know whether it's my biorhythms today or what, but the last half hour has made this more real for me. You know, going through an outline is pretty abstract in a way. And so Paul's asking for a narrative. Put it back on the human level. I don't know. Not to disparage what you were trying to do, Lionel, at all, because we need the person that puts it down. But I'm reminded of a quote from Jean-Paul Sartre, who said, "The ultimate evil is to make abstract that which is concrete." Mm. And so somehow it became concrete for me, finally. But again, maybe it's my biorhythms. I don't know.
Well, and without all of the background work, all of the layout and thoughtfulness that Lionel did in putting that document together, and then as we talked about it, that narrative, I couldn't have explained it that clearly. There's no way that that was present for me until, until we really got through getting the layout there, getting that skeleton to support the beast.
Fair. Yeah. I love that thought and point though, Paul and Francesca. Yeah, right. Putting things in narrative form. Not a skill of mine. But I love it. I love that. It's really valuable. So, yeah. I look at things, sometimes I read narrative, I'm like, what's the structure? What are they saying? What are they trying to get me to understand? And I see structure oftentimes where other people see narrative, where I look for structure where other people hear and see narrative. And so like, sometimes I hear narrative and I'm like, and I think there's no structure. I don't think they're going to get anywhere with that because it sounds beautiful, but they're not talking about anything that has any legs. And yeah, but then there's also, but then we all talk in narrative and we learn in narrative and we think in narrative. So I think the way that I think about this is quite useful and rather useless, depending on the setting. So I agree. I think that creating some narrative around all this is probably a wonderful way to start, and then we can have some outline that follows.
I'm just seeing the, if the outline really is the skeleton, what we're talking about is the difference between the way a jellyfish travels and the way a tuna fish travels. Mm-hmm. These are vastly different organisms, and the speed and directionality is so different if it does or does not have that skeleton in it.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Any other thoughts? Leoma.
On the 26th.
Yeah, the 26th.
Oh, the 26th. Okay.
The 26th.
I had suggested that as a discussion where we were talking about the gift piece.
Yeah.
Well, the 26th is the octal meditation.
No.
So, no?
No, that's May 4th.
Oh, May 4th. I'm sorry. Wrong week. Monday of a different week. My apologies.
Yeah, so 26th is Sunday before we start the trainings on Monday.
So your question, Leoma?
Is it happening, and if so, when?
We'll have to find a scheduler and get
yeah,
that
who wants
out.
to be a scheduler for that? I'll walk you through it, but I'm not taking the lead.
What was on the table? I lost Leoma's voice.
Oh, Sunday, April 26th, next Sunday, having a discussion where we can present our gifts and talk it out a little bit so that maybe it becomes more clear what role you might want to train for and take on.
Yeah, I'm happy to help schedule that. And yeah, and I also want to voice that I'll be attending all four because I feel called to be able to do anything that's needed.
You can do anything.
And I might feel that way also. I also would like to nominate Derek, perhaps, to pull together our gathering on the 26th, and maybe Michelle can even take a break.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Terrific. Okay.
All right.
So
work is done.
Here's what I'll propose is so if Benny is going to be scheduler, Derek is going to be a host.
Facilitator,
it sounds like. And maybe facilitator also.
Well, we can use my room. And I'm happy to facilitate that.
Okay.
I can make somebody a co-host so they can help with muting and unmuting and things like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm realizing at some point it would be great to, I don't know how you do it online, but to have a training on how to be more technologically trained in using Zoom.
That's actually going to be a big part of what the host training will be. Okay. So just if you want to learn the Zoom tools, we'll include that with the host training.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Totally.
And you know, I still need to do some research and learn a few things before I'm ready to like provide a host training, but we'll get there.
I've done host training, so I'm happy to carry that piece on that training.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk and make sure that that's going to be a time that will work for you. Okay.
Fair. Okay. Any final thoughts or words? And that's my question. And actually, I'm just looking, I'm trying to, you know what? Any final thoughts or words, share them now as I look and see whether there's anything we're going to do here in closing.
Well, I think the role for your, the person you presented as wanting to start a discussion, I think that that name should either be visionary or perpetrator, depending upon how you.
Why am I leaning toward perpetrator right now? I had said visionary earlier, actually. It was the vision holder. Let's not get too pompous, but perpetrators sounding really good.
Yeah. You know, actually in this conversation, Michelle said, when Michelle and I talked about this, I brought up this issue of like, wait, the organizer is clearly a role here, the person that like puts this all together. And Michelle and I had a conversation before this, and she was like, I don't know about organizer. It seems too hierarchical. And she proposed instigator. And in our whole conversation, and I was kind of like, I don't know, like, what the heck is that? But actually, like in our whole conversation, as we've been talking about it, I'm like, instigator, yeah, that's what it is. And so I'm actually I'm finally starting to vibe with Michelle's language there. Instigator, maybe? Putting it out there. Okay. So I think we should close up now.
All right.
This is awesome. We actually got into this. The 9 of us, like, this was really satisfying. I am super grateful. I'm delighted. I'm surprised. I'm really delighted actually with how meaningful this conversation was and how interesting it was. And yeah, I want to do this, what we're doing, and I'm just thrilled that you do too, and that there's as much shared care for this as there is. It's cool. That's the main thing I want to say. And we're going to close here in just a moment, and I'll let Michelle lead the closing.
Let's just do this. So I think what I'd like us to do is just take a moment and pause and settle back in. Get in touch with where our body is right now. Feel if there are places that have more tension, places that have relaxed. How have we changed in this 2.5 hours now together? And then as you let your body and your unconscious mind take the lead, have it find the team in your conscious mind that can put together a few words that just say how you feel about the direction it looks like we're heading, the path that we're starting on. So 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 words, not much more than that. How does it feel to be in this fellowship, setting off down this road?
Connected.
Expansive.
Cautiously inspired.
Urging
Eager.
forth.
Eager and fortunate.
A little tight.
Held and inspired.
Inspired and grateful.
Grateful, connected, with some nervous energy.
May we be seeding paths of hopefulness.
Mm.